Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to whoever is in the world you are streaming here on Twitter. Today it's Twitter. I caught so much flack for wearing an X shirt, I thought I would bring out the Twitter merch. It's the difference. It's all Twitter. Twitter, YouTube, Friday, December 19th. What's happening, people? A pleasant how do you do on a busy Friday across the sports landscape? A lot going on. I just got done playing a passionate session of tennis, and I feel fantastic. Especially after a night of late night, including consumption of alcohol, adult beverages, and shenanigans. To go out there and sweat out the poison feels phenomenal. Then you go in the hot tub, put a little icy hot on the shoulder, get into the shower, rinse yourself off, and I feel so fresh, ready for another night of hoops. We got a lot to go over. We can discuss last night's slate, which was 12 games of absolute chaos. We can look forward to tonight. We've got some major injuries and stuff. Also, the news dropping from Shams there about the NBA looking into, not looking into, but potentially changing the way that injury reports are filed, as well as restrictions on specific types of unders with the legal league partners. Prop unders are at risk of being limited to lower amounts of money. We can talk about all that stuff too. What's happening, Shay? Good to see you. Al Frazier in the chat. Good afternoon from Dallas, Texas. What's it like down there? What's the temperature? Is it still polar vortex, or is it decent? I think right now it's decent, and then it's cold, and then I don't know. Whatever. It's winter. Shaden says, what a slate of sports we have this weekend. So last night, I understand a lot of people were watching a big NFL game, I think was on. Man, y'all, if you needed, that was a night that you needed. I had 2 laptops, 2 tablets, and a TV because there were 11 concurrent NBA games on at once. And if you're someone that likes to keep the tabs on other sports as well, because you're just a fan of sports, you would need one for the NFL game too. Even then, my internet and device deployment was being stretched to levels unforeseen. I was busy, man. All those games had something that happened: overtime, regulations, storylines, drama, Dylan Brooks, judo chop of Steph Curry. And then he goes to I got to do some soul searching. What the fuck are we talking about? Just don't cock your arm back and judo chop dudes. It's pretty simple. How much did I drop on AJKO tonight? So real quick, before we begin tonight's Q&A, a couple of things. So someone was asking about the big boxing match. And if you've known me long enough, you know about one of my stories, which I'll repeat in a couple of minutes. But for anyone that does deposit $100 at ProfitX using code WOB, ProfitX will put you into the running. Keep in mind, it probably won't be too many people that are eligible. They will be giving away college football playoff tickets to at least one person who does deposit up to $100 using code WOB. So if you were interested at any point getting into the action this weekend, know that you will automatically be entered into a lottery, which is not going to have, I can't imagine many people are going to be doing it. So you have a decent chance of winning. Code WOB, W-O-B at ProfitX. Number 2, the question in the chat about the fight tonight. So this was actually, I'd say it's similar. What is it, by the way? What's the line right now? So they've got, ProfitX has Joshua up to minus 990. Those of you unaware, I know it's hard to see because I'm in the way. So why don't I do this? 990 is the number tonight. And it was down to 900 and some 880 in some shops. If you know Worldwide WOB, I've had a couple of money-making ventures that I took a little bit of a risk on throughout my life that actually succeeded. The first of which was watching a Dallas Mavericks game in 2011, right around Christmas. They were playing the San Antonio Spurs. And I remember watching that game. If they win this game, they're going to win the NBA championship. And I would like to monetize that as opposed to just betting them to win the title. What I did was I took every dollar to my name and I bought every season ticket that I was able to in the lower corner, section 110 row O. 110 row O. I had like 9 seats, which was, I had about $40,000 to my name at the time. And I spent most of it on FS22s, which is full season 22 tickets, so that it still qualifies as a full season. You need full season tickets in the NBA when it comes to it's super important to have an FS and not a half season, because full season, you're guaranteed those seats throughout the entirety of the playoffs if you choose to purchase them. So I had an FS22, which is the last game before it becomes a half season. I get my tickets for the playoffs, and the Mavericks, en route to winning the championship, play against Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, and the Portland Trailblazers in the first round. Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, maybe Andrew Bynum. It's the Lakers, the biggest draw possible, especially for ticket prices in the second round. Oklahoma City Thunder in the conference finals. Obviously, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, they were a big deal at the time. And the finals is against LeBron James and the Miami Heat. I ended up, how much money I made by reselling those tickets was probably the same amount that I ended up investing in it. So that was a nice little money-making venture. The second of which for me was Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. So I got a gig. I did the post-fight show inside the arena with Andre Berta. So I was sitting third row for McGregor Mayweather, being paid to just be the host and, interview these guys. And they put the interview up on the Jumbotron as people were walking out of the arena. But I also decided to bet about 33% of my entire, I would never recommend this, by the way, ever. Do not do this tonight. Do not do this tonight. 33% of my entire net worth. Look, no, even more than net worth, liquidity. Withdrew it, put it on Floyd Mayweather minus 300 to beat McGregor. My reasoning for that was, this is the equivalent of if Michael Jordan and Wayne Gretzky decided to play a game of one-on-one in basketball. Conor McGregor had never fought a boxing match in his life, at least professionally. He was obviously a UFC fighter. That's a completely different sport. And he's going up against the greatest of all time in his prime. So that was a bet I was so sure of. And the only reason why that line was so tight was because so much money was being placed on McGregor. So much money was keeping that line near minus 300, which yields a pretty significant amount if you can get a decent chunk down. And because Las Vegas was opening up the books for that fight, you could get major wagers down. And that's exactly what I did. It was just the perfect aligning of the stars, and you will never see anything like that again. Because tonight, once again, you can see here on ProfitX what the line is between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul. I'm not recommending you do that when you're laying minus 980. Big difference between minus 980 and minus 300. Okay, so with that said, there's going to be people that are just dumping every dollar they have on Anthony Joshua because we're talking about one of the most prestigious heavyweights in boxing going up against a YouTuber who should not only get destroyed, but might possibly die tonight. That's how much better Anthony Joshua is at fighting. But for some reason, people are still betting Jake Paul because they want the big payout. Maybe there's some corruption with the judges. I do not buy into that because there is a pending mega fight with Tyson Fury in Saudi Arabia coming up that is contingent on him winning tonight. So there will be no, oh, my arm, TKO, I need to quit, throw in the towel. But we've also seen Anthony Joshua get knocked out by Anthony Ruiz at Madison Square Garden. I was there for that. Shit happens. And I'm not ever going to recommend doing what I did unless there's a perfect aligning of the stars. And this is not it because that number is way too high. Okay. Sorry, let's get back to the chat. That's enough blabbering, but there's a little history about me that maybe you never knew. Al Frazier, I see you continuing to 65 degrees in Dallas, Texas. Hey, Al, we talked about this on my SiriusXM show earlier today about Jalen Johnson, Trae Young, and now Trae's out of the lineup tonight, people. Second leg of a back-to-back for the Hawks. But boy, do they just look – I don't want to say they look worse because that's unfair to Trae. He was 20 minutes on his minutes restriction last night, and he's just getting back into the grind and the flow of NBA regular season basketball after being out for a considerable amount of time. So no legitimate hypothesis can be formed after that small of a sample size. But you can say that the team just looks different because Trae requires a lot of the basketball. Someone like Onyeka Okongwu that's free-flowing and the ball's been popping around the perimeter a lot more, becomes a little bit more stationary. Catch and shoot, not moving as much. Just feels and looks a little different. And Jalen Johnson is going berserk lately for almost a 3-point triple-double last night. He is the dude on the Hawks right now, and considering Trae's contract status, this is going to be something to keep an eye on. Watch how they look tonight against the Spurs, especially with Wemby on his own minutes restriction. Let's see what they look like against the Spurs with versus without Trae. Because if they go back to efficient offense and being able to defend, they gave up 130 plus points to the Charlotte Hornets last night. Fine in the chat is asking. Oh, Al, you like the Sooners to beat the Tide tonight. Have you heard? So if the rumbling is if Alabama falls, Kalen is going to be a head coach of the Michigan Wolverines by like next week if he were to lose tonight. Big if, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, Oklahoma's got Venables has a stout defense ready to go for this evening. Fine asks, who do you think the Knicks should pursue for this trade deadline? Nobody. The vibes are immaculate after last night. And I'm glad somebody in the chat mentioned it. So tonight they're playing the 76ers without Joel Embiid. 6-point favorites is the current number out there. Expect all of the Knicks starters to return to the lineup. So you got, let's see, OG, Brunson, Mikal. There you go. Karl-Anthony Towns on here somewhere. There he is here at the very bottom, 20.5. Josh Hart back in the lineup too. So last night was supposed to be a schedule loss for the New York Knicks. Schedule loss. Less than 48 hours after celebrating an NBA Cup championship, they go to Indiana en route back to the Garden. They're on the second leg of a back-to-back with the second game as a nationally televised game. And if you remember player participation policy in today's NBA, you have to make your stars ready and available for nationally televised games. So this was always the circle game. This is where we rest our guys, especially after playing that extra game that doesn't apply towards the standings or the regular season ledger with statistics. Brunson ends up playing. Mikal is obviously always playing. But no Mitchell Robinson, no Josh Hart, no Karl-Anthony Towns, several dudes out. And they go out there, go down by 15 in one half, 16 in the other half. They fight back twice. They're completely gassed, but you can tell they wanted to win this so bad as they were rallying around Huck Porty and Diawara. Tyler Kolek is certifying himself as a legitimate bench guy that you might be able to send out there for 8 to 9 minutes in a playoff game if you need to. He just continues to shine with this opportunity, but they wanted to win so bad for those dudes against a Pacers team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year. A Pacers team that is getting some dudes back, and they're obviously desperate because they've lost a ton of games. And the Knicks come back to win with a Jalen Brunson weekend step back. His patented weekend step back. Only Luka Doncic loves going to that weekend more. Mike Breen, bang, bang. The double bang. Okay, so I was just about to go down this avenue. The double bang is usually reserved for generational moments. I'm talking like Kyrie Irving shot against Steph Curry. Giannis alley-oop during the finals against the Suns. Shit that you see on the montages outside Springfield in the Hall of Fame. But when it comes to his MSG double bangs, he does let those fly a little bit more liberally. I'm thinking of Julius Randle's shot against the Miami Heat. Mikal Bridges' shot against the Portland Trailblazers just last season. And now the Jalen Brunson step back over Andrew Nembhard, who really gave him a hard shove just a couple of seconds prior because they had a foul to give, and he wanted to make sure that he felt it. Well, he steps back, and Mike Breen was into that game last night. He was emotional as hell, and it was rubbing off on me. I didn't expect to be that stressed about some random-ass regular season game. But his tone of voice and how him and Clyde were into that was somehow the game of the year. And how good it must have felt for all of those bench guys to go out there and get that victory when they were completely gassed and tired from celebrating. Walt Perrin sees the future, says, how much do you weight record versus differentials? Oh, when evaluating a team? Well, mainly because I'm watching every damn game. It's got to be a healthy balance of the eye test plus efficiency ratings. So if a team is like the Knicks right now, or one of the top net rating teams in the entire NBA, offense and defense, I think those statistics matter. But it's not the Bible for me. Sometimes you pick up on something by watching a game and the numbers don't really correlate to it. So I think it requires going to class and doing your homework. Going to class is watching the games. Doing your homework is keeping up with the efficiency analytics throughout the season, but not just relying on those to tell the whole story. Kolik's finally getting decent run. Hey, what's up, Prophet X? Just catching up, Wob, but anyone that signs, there you go. Once again, anyone who signs up, this is a little bit of a secret promo today. For those, this is special for those of you watching the show. We got 3,600 of you. 3,600 of you. If you deposit using code WOB today, you will be eligible for a drawing with everyone else that deposits using code WOB to get a pair of college football playoff quarterfinal tickets of your choosing. So you need to obviously do that soon, considering those games are coming up. I know that's also difficult if you're not in the market for a team, but if the stars do align for you, now would be the day. Shout out to Prophet X for allowing us this opportunity to send a lucky fan to one of those games. The precious, precocious, how do I pronounce that, translator? The precocious neophyte. Last night I heard spinning and winning, dancing and prancing, neophyte. All of Walt was really emptying the clip with all the Waltisms. And meanwhile, you got Mike Breen stressed out over there as the Knicks are about to steal this victory from the Pacers. Knicks Pacers, man, always delivers regardless of the team's records. What else you guys got? No questions in the chat about last night, I see. So we must not, a lot of people that are watching the stream right now, I told you I would not bring it up unsolicited. You're going to have to ask yourself. Oh, that's right. Feline quickness, canine attitude. How does he do it? Does he come up with these separately? There's no way it's all off the dome, right? Because he's been doing this job forever. But he's just such a perfect complement to Breen. Breen and Clyde. Do other sports, major professional sports in North America have a consensus They are the number one broadcast team by far, and even the most biased homer fan of another team would admit it, because Breen and Clyde are that in the NBA. Everyone is like, okay, they're the best. We can't even argue. Baseball, it used to be, it was Vin Scully, everyone's cup of tea. The consensus is the Mets announcers are really good. Football is, NFL is, I guess, they don't have home broadcasts. NHL or regional sports networks, I should say, with the NFL. Rob, if I look at the stats, the Knicks under Tibbs and Brown aren't drastically different. So where are you seeing the major differences? Just look to Mikal Bridges specifically. Mikal Bridges and how free-flowing his movement is in this offense versus a lot of pick and pop, pick and roll action last year with Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, and then floor spacing with OG and Mikal in the corner. The two of them were leading the NBA in field goal attempts from those exact spots pretty much the entirety of the season before OG got hurt. I think it was Mikal in the right corner, OG in the left corner. They just shot the most because it was their job to stand there and space the floor. Now you see Mikal slashing. He loves that little scissor kick fadeaway, one-legged off the nail after catching. That's his shot. And just watching him navigate a little bit more, he's more integrated and involved into the offensive options that I think is more of a compliment to his strengths and talents versus just standing there and being a 3-and-D guy. So it's not that Mike Brown is better than Tom Thibodeau, because the Knicks had a great record last season as well. They made the conference finals, so they were doing something right. But it does feel like Karl-Anthony Towns is significantly more violent at the rim in his pursuit of getting interior buckets versus settling for shooting a bunch of threes outside the arc. And Mikal Bridges is also just navigating and existing, leaving his influence a lot more than usual. Shay says, the Eric Lewis reinstatement is wild. Adam Silver really on a roll recently. Eric, if you guys missed that news earlier today, Eric Lewis, who was, it's not fair to say found guilty, but this man had burner accounts on Twitter where he was arguing with fans about games that he was officiating. So he ended up going and refereeing ACC basketball in college for a couple of seasons, and now he's back in the G League on his way in. But he's back. He's Scott Foster's boy. The two of them singing Jack Harlow in the car together. Eric Lewis is back. They announced it on at NBA PR today. And what else? Yeah, so you saw the news about Shams reporting on prop unders. Well, the good news is here at ProfitX, the liquidity pool still exists for any of these unders that you want to bet tonight. Philadelphia specifically. If we're looking for action, I myself am looking at so many points for Tyrese Maxey, man, 30.5. Jalen Brunson under, perhaps. Karl-Anthony Towns coming back. Can go under 27.5, under 26.5. I'm looking at Jalen Brunson's under here. Maybe he takes a back seat after just emptying the clip last night and then getting Karl-Anthony Towns back. Plus Josh Hart will take a little bit of burden off of his shoulders, and he may not be needed to produce points until late. So hopefully you guys can it's not allowing me to place wagers while I'm in California. But if I could provide any prop under tonight, it's Jalen Brunson under 27.5. Will Tyler Kolek play with healthy Deuce and Shamet? That's, it's going to get crowded quick. Deuce was awesome. Shamit was killing before his injury, shooting the lights out. Tyler Kolek is just such a bulldog, man. I think he'll be more in that reserve role, but it's nice to know that he has proven he can bring it if needed. What are you guys up to on this Friday? Is it winter time where you are? Because today it's like high 60s here in LA. Tennis weather, chase weather. There was a boxcar chase earlier today, but it got marine layered, so it only lasted a couple of seconds. What else happened last night? Oh, shit. Well, I mean, every game had something. Nikola Jokic ended up breaking Kareem's record for most assists by a center. The Dillon Brooks flagrant foul on Steph Curry. Jordan Goodwin ends up getting fouled himself in a tie game with just a second left. That first free throw was so bad. I got a text from Antonio with an OMG with the X eyes shocked face. I haven't seen someone miss a free throw that bad while it still hit the rim, not an air ball, in a while. He looked so nervous, and you could hear Eddie Johnson, our colleague at SiriusXM, on the broadcast saying, he's got to take his mask off. Take your mask off, man. I don't care if it feels comfortable. You got to take that mask off. It's going to be tough to shoot those free throws, especially with it sliding around your face. And then he just easily made the second, which was quite a surprise. There was Pelicans versus Rockets. Şengün gets the ball in the front court. Kevin Durant was quite literally perfect for 2 hours from the field. And he's over there clapping and get the ball back because the Rockets didn't call timeout. They get it into the front court. Şengün got a somewhat decent look at the rim, but ended up missing. And KD was pretty pissed that he didn't get that ball back. And then they ended up losing in overtime as a result. Herb Jones had 8 steals in that game. And sorry to keep bringing up the show earlier today, but Antonio is as plugged in to the Pelicans as anyone out there. And I did premise the whole conversation with Herb Jones as someone that a lot of teams have been rumored to have interest in. And he's like, no, don't waste your time, which means Herb Jones is not going to be traded, is what I imply from no. It would be a stunning surprise if Herb Jones is traded. So there's a little news from AD, but I guess anything can happen. Mask off, yeah. Future. I gotta say, Future is probably the last artist, hip hop artist, that I listened to their entire full album. I love Future. When was the last time Future came out with a real CD? It was that one with The Weeknd, right? That CD was awesome. I haven't listened. I can't tell you a single hip hop artist that exists or is new or is breakthrough. I haven't heard a single new rap song that is on the radio that is relevant. Like, what the hell happened? Future's beats, Future's lyrics, the flow. I'm very intrigued by his art. But he's the last one. Maybe someone can explain why hip hop doesn't have any more breakthrough artists anymore. Is it because content has become so fractured by too much? There's too much content, and now everyone has something specifically tailored for them. Monoculture doesn't exist anymore. We got Knicks starters tonight: Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Towns, Hart. They're back, the Iron Five. Tell me that the Knicks are not the class of the Eastern Conference. Tell me that with a straight face. Detroit's going to give them a tough series at some point, for sure. There was another game last night we need to talk about. That fourth quarter between the Pistons and the Mavs, man, was harsh. They let everything go. And there were dudes getting destroyed out there with some massive bodies. AD and Anthony Davis, not Antonio Davis, Anthony Davis, Cooper Flagg, Jalen Duren, Beef Stew, Gafford. There were just behemoths everywhere on the floor. Dallas ended with 15 blocks in that game. And then they called that foul on Beef Stew at the end for running into the passing lane. And it was like, how did you just let these dudes go through the American Gladiators gauntlet and call that? So the biggest beef that we have, I think, now is just the inconsistencies with the whistle. Being a referee is an impossible job. It's thankless. Everyone hates you. You're getting yelled at all the time. And no matter what you do, someone's going to agree and someone's going to disagree. Also, they don't have the luxury of slow motion 1080p replay from a camera angle 10 feet above the court. So they have to make calls in real time. And if they blow the whistle to stop play and it disrupts everything, the ramifications are more than just a missed call. But that doesn't mean that we can't work on, if you're going to let the boys play, no blood, no foul, prison ball rules in effect. You can't be calling that ticky-tack stuff at the end of the fourth quarter. Coop is shooting sub 24% from three. You know what? I mean, that's a problem, but it will improve over time. And even if it doesn't, look at Amen Thompson. He went, 11 of 14 from the floor last night. He's shooting 18% from three. Dyson Daniels is in the teens as well. There's ways to impact the game positively that don't require you shooting threes in volume. Yes, it affects your spacing, but of course you want to have Amen Thompson out there because of his defensive prowess, his athleticism, and that Euro step that he hit on Derek Queen to give the Rockets the lead at the end of the fourth quarter before overtime made Antonio squeal on the broadcast. He's still doing good shit. All three of those guys. But you're right. They are struggling from outside the arc. And that, as a result, you're going to have defenders start going underneath screens. Spacing will be affected. But Cooper Flagg his impact above the rim right now is pretty spectacular. And that because he's so young and so athletic, when he's able to get out into the open floor because of his size, he is a special talent, as much as I shouldn't like him because he went to that school in Durham. What else happened in that Detroit-Dallas game? God, anytime you play the Pistons, man, it is just a bare knuckle fight. They are entertaining. What's up, Mike? Had no service in the grocery store. I missed your answer on if you think the Hawks do anything about Trae Young. I don't get why they do anything. Well, the only reason why they would do something is because they can't come to terms on an extension. And your hope is Trae Young still has market value that another team is willing to send assets to acquire him. And then Trae signs an extension with them, which makes him worth even more in that negotiation. But it sure feels like this team is going to be passed to Jalen Johnson in the very near future. If Trae would like to stay and just play out his contract, that may be one option. But as we have seen in the NBA, especially stars with that type of power can pick what They can pick what team they want to play for next and then leverage that into, hey, Atlanta, you should trade me here because I'm letting them know I'm going to sign if you do. What else? Why am I tired? I was up late. I had a date. I booked, so I booked the date for 9 p.m. Pacific time, and the place was wonderful. I booked it because it was going to be right after the Lakers. There were 3 games on that started. Let's see, seven started at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and they all ran kind of late because they were tight down the stretch. There was multiple monitor reviews, flagrant fouls, whatever. Lakers, Jazz, Suns, Warriors, and whatever. Denver, Orlando. So I waited until the very last minute. I'll say the restaurant that our reservation was at should take me about 10 to 13 minutes to get to because I take bird scooters, right? No Uber, no Lyft, but I was going to be on a bird scooter. And I looked at the bird scooter map and there was one right next to me. So I knew I didn't have to travel far to go find it. So the good news is the scooter was there waiting for me. The bad news is these games were running so late that I had to eventually, like, all right, I got to turn these games off and go. Because if I'm not 5 minutes early, I'm late. I don't want to be the one who's late. It's a bad look. And then I get on the scooter. And if you've ever been on a bird scooter before, they should average between, let's call it 15 to 17 miles per hour. Of course, I get on one that's top speed is like 12. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So now it's going to take me an extra couple of minutes to get there because it's a slower moving scooter. I did end up getting there, but I was not able to watch Kings versus Blazers because why would I sacrifice my date to watch Kings versus Blazers? And that ended up being the most chaotic game of all because none of those teams can hold a lead. DeMar DeRozan is hitting ludicrous shot after ludicrous shot. My phone is buzzing like crazy. And I'm like, what could possibly be happening in this game that people are continuing to talk about the NBA tonight, considering how much chaotic activity has occurred previously to this? And that game was certainly worthy because DeRozan kept hitting ridiculous shots. Someone needs to go out and save DeMar DeRozan from the Sacramento Kings because he can still fill it up in the clutch. The Blazers blow that massive lead. Then there's that call in overtime where Avdija gets fouled by Westbrook and a super late whistle from Mark Davis. It's just like all of this is wrestling, man. This is not sports. This is wrestling. NBA is WWE. Did I pick her up on a bird scooter? No, I did not. She met me there. She met me there. But because it's within, I don't have a car here in Los Angeles. And if it's within, let's say, 4 miles, I can bird scoot there. Bird has a deal going on right now. You can pay $12 for an entire year, and you have a flat rate of $4 per ride, up to 15 minutes a pop, which is pretty damn good. So you can go 15 minutes on a scooter, which is like 4 or 5. I can get 4 miles in 15 minutes. You can do that for a round trip total of $8 plus tax. Not bad. It's a lot cheaper than rideshare. Waymo's really cheap right now, but it's eventually going to go up. The question is, would you? Well, it's super dangerous to be on one of those scooters with more than one person. I'm like a NASCAR driver on that thing. I'm amazing. I could drive that thing with one hand drunk. I have such a good feel for it at this point. But most people may not, or not have the eye-hand coordination to feel confident on it. Um, I guess if I could, I would, but I will not. No. Have you guys been in a Waymo yet? Those things are elite. It is so nice to be in a car all by yourself, serene. It's a Jaguar, so like the car is gorgeous inside. It's got technology, put on your music, you can sit anywhere. And as long as you take it on the side streets, it's just getting licensed to be on the highway. I'm not going to do that, but I just take it on like quiet side streets, and it's so easy. What are you guys laughing at? You laughing at me? Busy night, busy weekend. So you got the college football playoff, NBA, got the fight tonight between Joshua. I mean, this is talk about a culmination or epitome of 2025. That's not true. I was about to say the biggest event we get in this sport is Joshua versus Jake Paul. No, Bud Crawford did just fight Canelo Alvarez. Might be towards the end of Alvarez's career, but it was still a mega fight. Well, yeah, Bud retired because he probably just wanted to go out on top. And he's also fought, what, 40 something fights? He's the best of his era. Well, he did overlap with Mayweather, but the same way that Kobe overlapped with Jordan. It's always going to be Jordan's era, and then it went from Jordan's era to Duncan's era to LeBron's era. And then LeBron, it'll eventually be Wembanyama's era. It was Mayweather's era, or Oscar De La Hoya, maybe, then Floyd Mayweather, undoubtedly, and then Bud Crawford for a short period of time. And now we're kind of back to boxing, trying to figure out how they platform a star that isn't a requirement that they have gazillion YouTube followers. What's up, Lake Shore? Would love to know if Con K in Charlotte should be a fringe all-star in the East this year. And if I'm a Team USA, I'm definitely looking into playing him in the Olympics. Great numbers for a rookie. Oh, okay. So when you say all-star, maybe he will be on the select team for sure, but he's not going to make the... Oh, 2028 is what? 3 years down the road? Maybe it's not completely unrealistic by the time we get there. See, he seems like a select team kind of guy. And it's not going to make the all-star team, especially because Charlotte sucks. And some of those spots are going to be reserved for world members. But he could participate in the three-point contest. That'd be fun. Rising Stars game, he'll crush. Beast Tony says Jake Paul's era soon. What am I missing about do you guys watch? Do they still like make YouTube content, or are they just boxers and podcasters? They're just personalities, influencers. How did they get started on Vine? A lot of the big stars started on Vine. What a complete letdown, man. That platform birthed so many personalities. And then it was gone. Are any of you old enough to have experienced Vine on Twitter back in like 2014, 2015? Most people on social media now are kids, so they were not around until they probably didn't sign up until COVID. I've seen a lot of different eras of Twitter in my day. Different ownership groups, private to public, back to private. It's looked differently. There was a time when you couldn't even upload photos to the website. You had to use this site called YFrog and link to it. Then there were the years of Crying Jordan. The longest running meme on Twitter by far was Crying Jordan. Memes nowadays last the length of an algorithm, which is about 24 hours. Vine was a decade ahead of its time because TikTok kind of stepped in and just replicated what they did and became what Vine should have been. Vine had the head start on TikTok, but because Twitter bought it and integrated it, it was just one of those products that they sunset for whatever reason. Getting ready for the Knicks and the Sixers, my friends. Go a couple more minutes here. Get your questions off. This is the prime schedule is pretty decent tonight. So what college football starts at in an hour. Sooners Tide. Kind of like the Sooners. They already beat them once. Sixers Knicks coming up in a couple of minutes. Heat Celtics. Bulls Cavs. What happened? They're missing everybody tonight too. Donovan Mitchell's out. Everybody's out. Trae Young's out for the Hawks. Wemby's probably still on a minutes restriction if he's playing at all. At least in the nightcap, we get a rematch of the conference finals between the Thunder and the Timberwolves. A scheduling note for next week, because Wednesday is going to be Christmas Eve, so there's no games being played. So we probably won't do a show then. Monday, Friday of next week will probably be the show days. And because it's Christmas week, you know what that means? First Friday after Christmas is Leaders in the Clubhouse. We begin tracking individual season awards in the NBA. Who's your defensive player of the year? Tough question. It's got to be someone on OKC, does it not? Lakeshore's taking us home saying, saw an interesting take from Fred VanVleet when interviewing KD. He mentioned the reason he thinks the All-Star game has fallen off a cliff is more so due to the style of play now as opposed to the All-Stars themselves not trying hard enough. Basically saying the three-pointers and layups make it hard to watch for an All-Star game. Oh, okay. Oh, because you're saying maybe back those great All-Star games from the 90s, there was so much post-work, post-play. It felt like a real game because of the style. Oh, I can kind of see that. But at the end of the day, it's easy to tell when guys are trying and when they're not. And in the 90s, it looked like a real game. It looked like and felt like a real game because there were only so many opportunities for those stars to play on nationally televised platforms like NBC. When you got the nod, you treated that thing like it was the playoffs. There was no social media back then. So if you wanted to show off to the world how good you were, no better place to do it than on NBC. On that note, I appreciate you guys hanging out today. We got a busy weekend ahead. Some college football, some hoops, some boxing. I'll be around tonight, perhaps a police chase, even though the Marine layer is very thick at the moment. It's been a pleasure, my friends. GG's in the chat. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys on the timeline. Deuces.